This story begins in a zone on Oak Island, where all the digging reports of the past 10 years had always indicated a low chance. But this time, the ground-penetrating radar detected something that shook the entire team. A perfect rectangular cavity at a depth of 9.4 meters, its sides perfectly straight, as if shaped by hand, not by a machine. The metal density reading also spiked to 7.8x, which is normally only found in ancient iron or heavy alloy structures. Rick calmly said, "Guys, this isn't natural." And with that one line, suspense hung in the air. When the drill reached the bottom, the soil changed, from normal clay to suddenly dark gray compacted soil, what archaeologists call a ritual seal layer, meaning it was intentionally sealed. Then, strange symbols appeared on a nearby wall, among them runic patterns that resembled 10th–11th century Viking inscriptions. Even Marty agreed. If this is real, it could be the oldest Viking vault in North America. Then came the real shocker signals, a hollow echo, as if a chamber was empty below, along with short pulses of magnetic fluctuation, which normally only occur behind a locked metallic door. The crew grew tense. This place didn't seem like just a treasure site. It was someone's guarded vault. And then a cloud of dust rose from a distance. 4 black SUVs arrived at the site at full speed. No announcement, no warning, just direct arrival. It seemed as if some authority already knew what lay beneath. Rick simply said, "Why now? Who tipped them off? What was found below? What was sealed in the Viking vault? Why did the authorities arrive so quickly? What will be revealed next will blow your mind. Be sure to subscribe. If you miss the next twist, the entire story will be left incomplete. At first, the ground-penetrating radar showed perfectly normal readings, just like it does on other days. But suddenly, a clean shape appeared on the screen. A perfect, long rectangle. Rick and Marty huddled together, because such clean, geometric shapes are nearly impossible to find in Oak Island's soil. It looked as if someone had built a proper room centuries ago, with perfectly straight walls and sharp corners. A complete silence fell over the crew, as if everyone suddenly understood that this place was anything but ordinary. When the machine calculated the depth, the number came back, 9.4 meters. At this depth, soil usually forms only natural layers, with curves and random formations. But here, the data was crystal clear, as if an architect had followed a blueprint and created this structure. The radar's second sweep revealed clear right-angle corners, something nature never creates. Matt said with a light laugh, "This sounds like a math teacher's dream." But Rick's face held a serious expression, as such symmetry is only found in human-made structures. The crew wondered for the first time, had someone built a secret chamber here? When the technical team ran a 3D scan, the image was even more impressive. Below was a complete rectangular cavity, its length and width in almost perfect proportion. Such precision was not common in those times, when people used only basic tools. Radar waves repeatedly confirmed the same shape. As the lines on the screen deepened, the team began to realize that this wasn't a storage room or treasure chamber, but something like a secured vault. Such a signal had never been found before in Oak Island's history. Marty, looking at the data, uttered a line. "The machine is literally saying, 'Someone built this.'" And it seemed true. If the structure were natural, the shape would be random, the walls uneven, and the corners blurred. But here, everything was strangely perfect. This discovery was a test not just of science, but also of imagination. What exactly lurked beneath? Who built it so deep? And the biggest question, what era does this vault belong to? The crew's faces were filled with excitement and fear, for they had perhaps come very close to finding what they were looking for. The initial portion of the digging was completely normal. Brown soil, small pebbles, and the same typical Oak Island soil the team has been digging up for years. Everything seemed routine until the shovel suddenly detected a different texture. The soil's color suddenly changed to a dark gray, and its tightness felt different. The crew quickly realized this ground wasn't natural. Something was wrong with it. When they dug a little deeper into this gray layer, they discovered that the soil was extremely compacted, as if someone had deliberately pressed it down. Natural soil is never so uniformly hard, but here, the entire layer revealed a decades-old, perhaps centuries-old sealing method. Dr. Spooner, holding the sample in his hand, said, "This is intentionally sealed. Someone didn't want anything below this to be found." Hearing this, the entire team held their breath. Archaeologists immediately confirmed that this layer wasn't ordinary soil, but a ritual seal, the same type ancient cultures used to seal chambers. It's compacted so tightly that air and water can't easily penetrate. This discovery was 10 times larger than any normal treasure dig, as it made clear that something beneath was painstakingly protected. For the first time, the crew sensed that there wasn't just gold or artifacts, there was a deeper secret. Machine readings also indicated air pockets beneath this layer, as if there were a closed chamber. With each scoop, the consistency of the soil became more and more strange, smooth, uniform, and perfectly packed. Rick uttered a line. "Old civilizations didn't seal this at random. It's a gatekeeper to something important." The crew looked at each other, and tension silently spread through the air. Oak Island was about to reveal a new level of mystery. After removing the gray seal layer, digging progressed a short distance, and suddenly a rough stone slab was revealed. This slab was completely different from ordinary stones. The surface was smooth, the edges were clear-cut, as if it had been shaped by an ancient craftsman. When the crew shone a light on it, some strange lines appeared on the stone. At first, they appeared to be cracks, but when the soil was cleared, everyone was astonished. These weren't random marks, they were carvings. Rick was the first to say, "Guys, these are symbols." And upon closer inspection, the symbols became even clearer. Some straight lines, some curved hooks, and some shapes that looked strangely familiar. Then Marty exclaimed, "These look like runes, Viking runes!" And the entire site was thrown into shock. Runic markings from Norse culture are considered nearly impossible to find in North America, but Oak Island always makes the impossible possible. Archaeologists immediately began comparisons, and many of the symbols matched 10th, 11th century Norse scripts. One symbol in particular, a small triangular mark between two intersecting lines, resembled the Viking explorer's protection rune. This symbol is often found carved on royal storage vaults, ritual chambers, and important belongings. For the crew, this moment wasn't just an archaeological surprise. It was a history-rewriting discovery. The symbols were so clean-cut that it seemed as if they had been deliberately carved inward to protect them from weathering. This meant only one thing. These carvings were made not on outdoor stone, but on some underground protected structure. Someone had placed this slab to mark this spot, perhaps to conceal or protect the identity of a secret chamber. Dr. Spooner uttered a chilling line. "If these runes are genuine Viking markings, then this isn't just a slab, but a message. And a message is always carved with purpose." The crew's faces displayed confusion, excitement, and fear, all at once. What lay beneath? Why did the Vikings seal it? And what kept it hidden for centuries? Whatever happens, One thing was clear. Oak Island was no longer just a treasure hunt. It was on its way to becoming the world's most shocking historical discovery. Digging had progressed a few feet when the drill suddenly encountered a different resistance. Soil and rock always offer soft or uneven resistance, but this time the drill stopped as if there was something hard and metallic beneath. The operator increased the pressure slightly, and the next second, a loud metallic clang sounded. The crew froze, as such a clear metallic echo had never been detected on Oak Island before. Rick immediately raised his hand and signaled everyone to stop. Machine readings were blinking on the top screen, and the density meter had spiked to 7.8x. This reading never occurs with normal stones or clay layers. It only occurs with a large metal slab or ancient alloy. Marty said in disbelief, "If this is metal, then this is a very old and very large structure." There was a strange, eerie silence in the air. After a while, the magnetic field sensors began to detect small pulses. These pulses followed the same pattern as when there is trapped air or magnetic shielding behind a sealed metallic door, as if something massive was inside and the surface was blocking it. Whispers spread among the crew. Door? Chamber? Or some ancient vault? The very thought was chilling. Rick tried to touch the slab, and as the soil was removed, a cold metallic shine was visible for a second. The shine was weathered, as if it had been buried in the soil for centuries. Dr. Spooner widened his eyes and said, "If this metal is what I think it is, we are not dealing with normal history anymore." For the first time, the crew felt genuine fear, fearing that they might have disturbed something they shouldn't have. Checking the metallic surface, the team lowered the drill at a different angle. Everyone thought there might be a whole metal plate underneath. But suddenly, the drill exhibited completely unexpected behavior. Within seconds, it broke through the metal resistance and plunged rapidly downward. The operator grabbed the handle in shock and yelled, "It just dropped! It just fell in!" When the drop was measured, it was discovered that the drill had suddenly free-fallen exactly 14 inches. Such a large, sudden drop in natural soil wouldn't occur unless there was a hollow space beneath. The next second, a loud, hollow echo returned from within the cavity, as if the air in a previously closed room had been shaken. The crew's faces bore a singular expression, pure disbelief and fear. When the drill bit was pulled out, dust and some shiny particles stuck to it, as if it had briefly touched a carved surface below. The hollow sound confirmed that there was a large, empty chamber below, with walls that were likely smooth and intentionally made. Rick lowered his voice and said, "Guys, something is open down there. We just broke into it." Hearing this line, the atmosphere of the entire dig site changed. The team scanned the cavity's boundary, and what the 3D radar revealed shocked everyone. A large, rectangular void beneath, with perfectly symmetrical walls. This wasn't just a random shape like a natural cave, but a perfectly built underground room. It was as if an ancient vault was finally breaking its centuries-old silence. The crew's minds were filled with only one question. If such a large chamber exists here, who built it? Rick quietly said, "We're opening something, and whatever's inside is very old." Centuries of air buried in the soil had been released, and Oak Island's greatest secret was finally about to surface. After the drill cavity was opened, the team decided to first send down a fiber-optic probe camera. This camera is mounted on a thin, flexible cable and can penetrate even the smallest holes to capture footage. As the camera descended, the screen showed only dust and darkness, but the crew's eyes were fixed on the monitor. Everyone expected something big to be revealed below. After a few seconds, the camera stabilized inside the cavity, and suddenly, a faint golden glow appeared on the screen. The reflection was muted due to the dirt, but the glow was so natural and deep that no one could believe it. Rick leaned forward and said, That looks like metal. And not just metal, gold-like." A complete silence fell over the crew. Such a shine had never been seen on Oak Island before. As the camera moved a little further, a carved stone wall appeared. This was no ordinary stone. It had very finely cut patterns on it. The lines were so clear that it seemed as if someone had sealed the chamber to protect them. The patterns were geometric, some wave-like, and some symbols appeared to have been designed by an unknown ancient culture. Seeing all this, the crew realized this place didn't form on its own. Another thing became clear in the footage. Old metallic. Bars were attached to a sidewall, resembling a locking mechanism. The mechanism was rusty, but its structure was perfect. Marty said softly, "Guys, this looks like the lock system for an ancient door." As the camera light fell on the mechanism, the golden reflection brightened. It seemed as if someone had left something very valuable locked away centuries ago. When the wall carvings were zoomed in a little, the symbols suddenly became clearer. The first symbol that became visible was a wolf head mark, with a pointed muzzle and triangular eyes. This is the same symbol that, in Viking sagas, is considered a mark of royal guardianship or elite family heritage. Both Rick and the archaeologists looked at each other in shock upon recognizing this symbol. The camera then captured another symbol, a large circular sun wheel pattern. This design was normally found carved on the ceremonial vaults of Viking royal families. It was called the Sun of Protection, and was believed to protect any hidden treasure from curses or theft. The symbol's cutting was surprisingly clean, as if weathering hadn't touched it. This made everyone understand that the chamber was completely sealed from external elements. The most frightening symbol appeared last, the crossed-serpent pattern. It depicted two panther snake-like serpents crossing each other. This symbol was only found on the belongings of Viking kings or high-ranking warriors and was believed to warn of a forbidden or massively protected object. Marty said, in a trembling voice, "Why would such symbols be here? Unless this vault belonged to someone powerful." The team began to theorize whether this could be the lost treasure chamber of a Viking king. Had a royal expedition reached North America? If this vault is truly of Norse origin, it would be one of the world's greatest historical discoveries. Rick's voice trailed off as he said, "Guys, this isn't just treasure. This could be a vault that rewrites history." The camera footage ended, but the symbols that appeared raised the entire team's blood pressure. Now, Oak Island held not just gold, artifacts, or Templar clues, but perhaps a Viking royal vault. What was inside? This mystery had become even more dangerous than before. A few minutes after removing the probe camera, the ground vibration meter suddenly started blinking rapidly. Normally, this meter only reacts when heavy machinery is running, but the site was completely silent. Rick picked up the meter and saw that the readings were irregular, as if the air pressure inside a closed chamber below had suddenly shifted. This phenomenon is extremely rare, and it means that the air inside the vault is being disturbed. The crew exchanged looks of fear and confusion as the vibrations seemed completely unnatural. It sounded as if the air in a sealed room below was slowly moving, as if trying to replace air trapped for centuries. Matt said softly, "Guys, it sounds like someone's breathing inside." Everyone got chills because that kind of sound only comes from pressure shifts in hollow structures. But the vibe was different. As the vibrations increased, the loose soil began to settle a little, and a light dust rose above the cavity. The camera feed also glitched for a second, as if an electromagnetic disturbance had increased below. Dr. Spooner said in a trembling voice, "Ancient sealed chambers react like this when their internal pressure finally breaks, after centuries." The crew's faces went pale. No one had ever seen such a live reaction. Rick ordered the digging temporarily halted for safety protocol, but the faint hollow sounds coming from inside refused to stop. It seemed as if something heavy was shifting inside, or some ancient mechanism was activating automatically. There was a strange tension in the air. No one dared to approach. Oak Island has always been mysterious, but today, this place seemed terrifying. The chaos of ground vibration hadn't even ended when the sound of loud engines came from a distance. The crew looked up and saw 4 black SUVs, without license plates, approaching the dig area at full speed. No headlights, no markings, no official logos. Just an ominous line of matte black vehicles, all of which stopped in unison right in front of the site. Confusion and panic were evident on everyone's faces. The SUVs squealed with heavy boots, and a few unknown officials, black jackets, dark glasses, and silent expressions, disembarked. Their body language was in command mode, as if they already knew what was going on. Rick moved forward, but before he could, one of the officers raised his hand and said in a sharp tone, "Stop all digging! Step away from the site! Now!" The crew froze in shock. The most shocking thing was, none of them gave their names, showed any ID, or asked whose permission the digging was being done with. It was as if someone had sent an urgent report and summoned them. Marty whispered, "How did they even know we hit the chamber?" But there was no response. The officials simply began inspecting the entire site, almost as if they were searching for something. Machines were shut down, camera crews were pushed back, and recording with any devices was strictly prohibited. One official even said, "Shut the cameras, all of them." The crew couldn't believe their eyes. The Oak Island team was being pushed back from their dig. The sudden arrival of SUVs after the vibration scare, it all didn't seem like a coincidence. Rick's breathing became heavy, and he looked at Marty and said softly, "Someone knew exactly what we found, and they don't want us to dig further." Oak Island wasn't just a mystery anymore. It was starting to feel classified. The moment the black SUVs stopped, the entire atmosphere of the dig site changed. Without hesitation, the officials walked straight toward the camera crew, as if they were the first to stop the recording. One officer's voice was cold. "Turn off every camera, right now." The crew exchanged glances, as this was the first time anyone had taken control of the Oak Island site like this. Rick's face clearly showed anger. As the camera operators tried to ask questions, "But why? We're documenting everything." Another officer replied sharply, "Not anymore. Shut them down." Slowly, every camera was shut down, as if an emergency lockdown was underway. Marty stepped forward and said, "This is private property." "By what right?" But his question remained lingering. The officials showed zero interest in answering. The most tense moment came when an officer pulled 2 camera crew members aside and said, "Delete the last 10 minutes of footage." The crew's faces froze upon hearing this. Footage is never deleted on a show like Oak Island, no matter how shocking. Rick stepped forward angrily and said, "You can't tell my team to erase evidence." But the officer's reply was, "We can. And we are." There was such authority in that tone that the moment became terrifying. The crew's hands were literally shaking as they checked their memory cards. No one could understand why the Viking-related markings and chamber footage found below had become such a problem. It seemed as if someone was afraid that if this recording were leaked, everything would change. Rick's eyes were filled with frustration and helplessness. He knew this wasn't just a dig halt, but a forced blackout. Such tension had never been seen on Oak Island before. As soon as the cameras were turned off, the officials called Rick and Marty aside and said, "We need to talk, privately." The crew was ordered outside, and the three were taken to a tent on site. The tent zipped shut, and everyone felt as if an interrogation was about to begin. The crew standing outside could only guess what was being discussed inside. The air was so thick that no one could hear their voices. Inside, officials dumped maps, printouts, and some classified-looking documents on the table. One officer pointed down and said, "What you've hit is not just an archaeological site. It may fall under restricted artifacts." Rick was shocked. He said, "Restricted? This is Oak Island, not a national military base." But the officer, without changing his expression, said, "Sometimes history also becomes national security." The meaning was something else. Marty asked in a tense voice, "What do you guys want? Stop the excavation? Take over the vault? Or is something else going on?" The officials looked at each other, and the answer came, "We want control. Whatever is down there could be sensitive." They also hinted that centuries-old metallic structures, forbidden symbols, and unknown mechanisms could sometimes be dangerous. The disbelief on Rick's face was clear. How could history be dangerous? The discussion began to heat up, as officials were adamant about stopping the excavation, while Rick and Marty considered it contrary to Oak Island's mission. Rick paused for a moment before uttering a single line. "For 10 years, we've brought light to this island. Why do you want to keep it in the dark?" A long silence fell inside the tent. The officials' faces were unreadable. No one could tell what their true agenda was. When the meeting finally ended, Rick and Marty emerged from the tent. Their faces made the crew understand that something serious had happened inside. Who had arrived with such urgency? Why was the footage ordered to be erased? And what was beneath that was being described as a threat to national security? The mystery of Oak Island had now gone far beyond treasure. It had become a battle for a deeply buried truth. After the officials left, the atmosphere at the dig site became intense. Small conversations among the crew gradually escalated into larger arguments. Some members believed it was better to stop the excavation, as tampering with external pressure and unknown officials could be dangerous. They argued that Oak Island's history was more complicated than it was beautiful. But on the other hand, there were those who believed that whatever lay beneath should be visible to the world. Matt said sternly, "If we stop, the truth will never surface." Hearing this, many agreed, because Oak Island's mission has always been based on transparency and truth. A rebellious energy began to emerge within the crew, as if they were unwilling to accept this suppression. Rick was caught in the middle. On one hand, safety and legal issues. On the other, Oak Island's decades-long dream. Marty was practical, but he also knew that if they stopped digging, someone else would come and make everything disappear. Two groups seemed to form within the crew, one that was afraid, the other that wanted to fight. The tension in the air was so thick that no one was afraid to take a deep breath. The biggest question was, should we dig further? Some said, wait. Some said, go ahead. And this uncertainty created the biggest internal conflict in Oak Island's history. It wasn't just a matter of digging. It had become a battle to determine who had the truth, the teams, the governments, or histories. The conflict was still going on when the GPR team suddenly called Rick again. The radar was run again, but this time the depth was increased slightly. For a few seconds, some random lines appeared on the screen, but then gradually new shapes began to emerge. This time, the data that came in shocked the entire team. An even deeper metallic core signal was being detected just below the vault. This meant a double chamber. The readings in the lower metallic core were even stronger than those in the outer chamber. Density values exceeded 8x, which is rare in normal historical structures. It seemed there was a main chamber below, protected by the first vault. This discovery sparked renewed excitement among the team. As Viking cultures often built double-layer vaults, the outer chambers were merely decoys, with the real treasure contained in the deeper vault below. A portion of the camera footage was also reanalyzed, revealing the shadow of a slightly curved structure on the lower side. This shadow resembled a dome or a heavy metallic lid. The crew looked at each other. If the deeper vault was true, then the real treasure probably lay untouched. This moment could prove to be one of Oak Island's biggest clues. Rick whispered, "We haven't found the real vault yet. We've only scraped the surface." A wave of both fear and excitement swept through the crew. Even those who had been telling them to stop fell silent at this signal. It seemed as if the ground itself was speaking. Dig further. The real answer lies below. Amidst the conflict, pressure, and double-chamber discovery, the team conducted a small test. A slight twist of the drill at the edge of the outer vault to see how the structure reacted. As the drill vibrated slightly, a dull, cracking sound came from the vault's metallic surface. The next second, a small gap formed, and a strong gush of cold air gushed out from within. The crew literally recoiled. This was centuries-old, trapped air. Dust suddenly burst out, accompanied by a hollow echo, filling the site. The sound was like an ancient door finally opening. Rick spoke in a trembling voice. "If this is really a Viking vault, then what is hidden inside?" Hearing this sent shivers down the spine of the crew. No one dared to peek inside. Marty instructed them not to open the vault just yet. The safety risk was too great, but the gap had widened enough to reveal the darkness within. It seemed as if a massive structure stood before them, hidden behind dust and dirt. An ancient metallic smell lingered in the air, confirming that something very ancient was sealed inside. The episode ends at this breathtaking moment. The outer vault has opened slightly. Cold air has entered from within. Signals from the deeper chamber have been confirmed. And Rick's last line continues to echo in viewers' minds. If this is just the outer vault, then how deep will the real treasure be? Friends, please subscribe. If you miss the next twist, the entire story will remain incomplete.